It's time for IP in the news. And what is the IP news of the day?
The government actually had to pay a software developer for copyright infringement for using their software without a license.
Our government?
The Navy, to be
Really?
Yes.
Wow. And what did they do?
So I guess they were talking to the software company about this app, and they said, well, you need to buy licenses from us. And they just started using it without the licenses.
They should know better, especially if they're in a license negotiation.
Well, and so they got taken to court, but of course it was a government court. So
Yes, the court of claims. So if you sue the government or you want to sue the government, you don't go to a regular court. You have to go to the government court of claims, which of course yields completely unbiased decisions, right? And so
they would never favor the government.
so the company sued it. The company is GmbH, and they sued for $600 million. And the court agreed that they were infringers, but they only got $120 in damages.
No, 150,000.
Right. That's what I said.
Did you guys hear $120 or did you hear 150,000?
No, she's right. It is 154,000.
Gaslight me?
Yes, I am. It's about time somebody did. But in any case, it was a ridiculously small verdict for the infringement, but they did win a victory in the sense that the Navy had to uninstall the software. If you could call that a victory, I think the company would have rather
had the Navy pay.
Had the Navy pay the regular rates than win $154,000 in court. So it's time for Richard's Roundtable, and I would like to ask our guests what they think of this IP situation. Dr. Travis and Michelle, welcome to the show. What do you think about all this?
Small businesses already struggle with building their tech, or even building an app is so much time and energy. So, I mean, the difficult thing is first how, to even respond for me would be how much would be the license if they were to actually purchase it? How long did they actually utilize it? And then that should have really been what they paid along with all the attorney fees. So if that comes out to the 154, okay. If not, they definitely got the short end of the stick.
Right. It was a government expert who put it at a low level for each license.
Right. So they had originally claimed $1,000 per license, and the court awarded them $200 per license.
And not for every license either.
And not for every license because it was in a network, and so it was. I without really studying the facts, you can't really say that is unreasonable, but certainly they spent $150,000 litigating the case for sure.
Easily.
Easily. So anyway. Yep. But so sometimes these things work out, but at least the Navy has been put on notice, right? Travis, you have any thoughts?
Well, I'm Dr. Travis Fox, and I play a doctor on TV, not a lawyer. So just want to get that really crystal clear.
Well, you did have some good legal advice earlier before the show. So.
Yeah.
Advice.
But beware of the fool on the side of the road offering free advice. So that being said, I would have fascinated to say, gee, I wonder if they had been stronger. And this is something small businesses we encourage all the time, is not just scope of copyright, but also trademark and patent. There's different laws. Now I realize we're in the court of claims, and it does have a different scenario. But the infringement on traditional courts, if I may be so bold, is a pretty significant structure when you infringe on trademark and patent. So for me, it's something especially when you're in IT space, is really go beyond the copyright. And secondly, I find it. How did the court get away with bias? That's where I'm.
Right. And we couldn't agree with you more on getting all the intellectual property protection you can.
We are in total sync on that one.
Yeah, just just want to, and I defer to counsel. I'm just going from my experience, but that's what I would have went for. Because copyright to me it's great and it's strong, but it's not as strong as other IP, especially when you're getting into tech, and specifically when you're going for government contracts. You have to be ironclad there, and in that case, I think they would have come out fared better. I also would have, and I don't know that they did this because I don't know the case in any way. I would have petitioned the court for like a motion to compel for them to fulfill their contract as the original licensing when they were in negotiations because they had prior knowledge of it. And that would have something I would have seen if we could have gone for, but I'm not the lawyer, so I defer to counsel.
Right. I mean, it's pretty stinky if you give them a copy of the software, they get to test it and then they run off with it, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So, but
Okay.
any
Pretty
case,
sure if I test drove a car and drove off the lot, it probably would have significant penalties. So I
Right.
think that would be
So-
analogous.
Then the note to self of every small business owner is that when you do a demo, do the demo. Don't hand over the keys yet until you see the money.
Right?
Smart advice.
that is a
Right.
great takeaway.
Yeah.
Kenya, what are your thoughts?
I was going to say the only thing I can add is they probably should have had maybe better counsel and maybe hired Gearhart Law.
You're right, Kenya.
We're,
Absolutely. You are
We're-
one smart cookie.
yeah, no wonder we have you on the show. No, no, but you're right. I mean, you're right. I mean, I think what Michelle just said about not handing over the keys and giving them a free license and all that should have been much more closely controlled. And lots of times, smaller software companies are or any company can be a little naive sometime. And quite honestly, dealing with the Navy, you wouldn't necessarily
tough.
expect that, but you know.
But I think to both your points, you need a law firm that's not just going to say, okay, we registered your copyright, see you later. You need a more holistic view. You need a strategy. And I mean, that's something Richard's super good at is sitting down with
Well, thank
somebody and
you.
doing a whole IP strategy and also business strategy because he was on business teams in corporate. So he understands a lot of this stuff.
Well, thank you for that nice compliment. I truly appreciate it. And with that, we'll go on to Mark. Mark, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I kind of agree with everyone. I think that's a tough look for the military. And when you think about all the efforts that business have had to do to negotiate the contract, develop the product, that's kind of a small payday for them. And I don't know if that happened often, but if it happened often with military, it's a pattern. And then entrepreneur will want to build less business for military. So might hurt innovation in the long term if that became a pattern. So not a good look, I would say.
That's
Yeah.
a good point.
That's a really good point. And you know,
Yeah.
what's interesting is that the military actually spends tremendous amounts on IP for their technology.
Right.
All
And they
right.
do a lot of research.
They do
too.
a lot of research and they spend a lot of money on patents. So it's sort of like, well, we want to protect our stuff and control our stuff, but you
We want to
can't.
take yours. Okay,
So,
Caleb is
yeah.
next.
Caleb, what's up?
Hey, yeah. I don't think I have anything else to add. Like perfect thoughts across the board. It's really hard to start a business, and the last person you want to be hurt by in any form is the government of the country in which you started it.
Right. It's taking your tax dollars and using them to fight you in court.
Yeah.
This is not a political show, so we never talk about politics. So, but what's going on here is sort of down at the lower levels of the government that would happen regardless of administration, I think.
Right.
So it's not meant to be anything other than that. But
Well, this fight's probably been going on for years.
Ye-
So
yeah,
it's multiple administrations.
multiple
It's-
administrations for
Yeah.
sure. So
I would say too, it's actually pretty frustrating knowing where the government and especially the military like overspends in the budgets. And, you know, you hear kind of the horror stories about Joe Schmo that got paid 10x pricing for some nuts and bolts. And, you know, you've just kind of heard some stories like that. And so then when you see it kind of reversed in this way, that's actually really harmful to an American business person. That's kind of adds insult to injury.
yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. It almost sends the message that if you're a big defense contractor and selling jet fighters, you can go over budget 15 times and go from a $1 billion estimate to a $22 billion cost, whereas they can't even pay like a software company something that would be more reasonable in terms of compensation. So a lot of different angles to the story. It's actually been pretty fascinating.